Survive and Thrive. I'm your host, Coach Sikora. We are live from the Buck and Honey's remote studios high above University Avenue on the west side of Madison. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Tim Decora8791. Those were 2 good years.
Oh, I love them.
You can follow the podcast on Instagram at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can catch us on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. Glad you could join us today. Today we have a special guest on this, the first episode of Survive and Thrive. And it's none other than former head basketball coach and teacher at Brookhaven Junior High School, assistant coach at Dominican College of Racine, Sun Valley High School, and then graduated or moved to UW Platteville, UW Milwaukee, and in his last hurrah, 15 years at the University of Wisconsin. And this person also happens to be a soon-to-be Naismith Hall of Famer. Ladies and gentlemen, Bo Ryan. Woo!
Thanks, Tim. You're awfully kind. I think you missed a few years in there when I was an assistant.
Oh,
76 to 84.
Yeah.
With Coach Cofield, Bill Cofield, and Steve Yoder.
Yes.
Before George Chris talked me into going down to Platteville.
And that was probably the best decision, one of the better decisions that Coach Chris, amongst others, he made some good decisions, but that's probably one of the better decisions that he made. I was just trying to capture when you were the man in charge.
Oh,
sure,
as a head coach, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure someday we'll get into the Brookhaven days, and I know you're going to have a ton of stories to tell. So let me refresh everybody who doesn't know or haven't heard of Coach Ryan, or you've been under a rock for the last 70-odd years. Refresh everyone's mind about some of the accomplishments that you've been a part of. Coaching for 42 years, almost as long as I've been born. 4 NCAA D3 titles, 1991, 95, 98, and 99. That 91 year is a special one for me. Mm-hmm. 2 NCAA Division I Final Fours in 2014 and 15. Of course, a lot of Badger fans will remember that runner-up finish in 2015. Numerous Coach of the Year awards, but probably the best win of your life, I believe, in my honest opinion, and she's not here in studio today with us, is winning the hand of one Carol Kelly. That would be Kelly Ryan. She's one of my favorite Ryans.
Yeah, she doesn't want to be called Carol. She never uses Carol, just so you know. So okay. Be careful.
We'll make sure we edit that out to my engineers. Make sure we edit that part out. Wink, wink. But yeah, so back in the day, you and Kelly may have enjoyed a dinner at Buck and Honey's where they cover all budgets. I don't know if you know that or not, and certainly cover all appetites. One of my favorite pizzas there is the Bomber Special, which I think I've eaten since 1985. Yeah, so it's good stuff. Consistency is what keeps driving people back to Buck and Honey's with locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Wanakee, and Mount Horeb. But we're going to jump right into our first segment. And when I heard this story, or you mentioned Reggie Jackson's name, I was kind of blown away. I'm like, Coach Ryan knew Reggie Jackson? So those of you that don't know who Reggie is, I just can remember now, and I get kind of goosebumps when I hear this. The chants of Reggie, Reggie echoing through Yankee Stadium. Reggie Jackson, Mr. October, played for 5 MLB teams. The Kansas City Athletics, who would later become the Oakland Athletics, Baltimore Orioles.
Originally the Philadelphia A's.
The Philadelphia A's.
Before they went to Kansas City.
Okay, so Wikipedia, if you're listening to this episode
they need to update
today,
them. Yeah.
They need to update them. Baltimore Orioles, New York Yankees, where he got most of his fame, California Angels, and finally back to the Oakland Athletics, where I think he finished his career. 14-time All-Star, 5-time World Series champion, won MVP award, and he led the AL in homers 4 times. Inducted into the Hall of Fame, Baseball Hall of Fame at Cooperstown on the first ballot in 1993. So what I would like to do is have you take a look at what we're going to talk about here in just a second. Tell us about your connection with a story, and maybe put a little more moral to the story of playing against Reggie Jackson, and anything you want to go at, Coach.
Well, Reggie was at Cheltenham High School when I got to high school, and my high school was Chester, and we were rivals in football, basketball, and baseball. And needless to say, Reggie was one heck of an athlete. He was built better than any running back that we had ever faced. And I was a safety on defense and quarterback on offense, and we didn't score against his team. Football being the first season. So we struggled a little bit. Matter of fact, I had to make so many tackles as the safety that I slept pretty well for the next 3 or 4 days. He was that good. He was hard to bring down. And at my size, at 160, 165, I always went for the kneecaps or the shin or the cleats. Unfortunately, he ran over me one time, and I still have the scar on my near my rib cage, where but Tim, he went down. So I made the tackle, so that was okay. But they won like 30-0, something like that. They were pretty good in football. And basketball, Chester High School is probably the winningest high school basketball team, especially for large schools. So. And I'm not saying that because I attended there. You understand that. But in basketball, we would beat them by 30. And
I can hear you, or at least hear your mind thinking of when you're playing them in football. You're probably thinking, "Get us now, because you're not going to get us. You're not going to get us during the basketball season.
In a couple months, you're ours." So we would beat them. So baseball was pretty much a split. But I can remember, I think it was my sophomore year, our high school was 10 through 12, so I was fortunate enough to make the varsity in 10th grade. And I'm at shortstop, and we always talked it up. We always pounded our gloves, say, come on, hum that rock, let's go, let's get this guy, he can't hit. The typical chatter that ball players used.
So right now I'm hearing you say you played quarterback, you played the shortstop, head coach. You were already doing it already.
Well, I did. All those things led to those leadership positions. Definitely helped me to end up having a career as a teacher and a coach, without a doubt. So we move into baseball season, and I'm doing my chirping at shortstop. Not trash talk, just encouraging the pitcher. Throw strikes, we got him. And he hit a ball that the sound was like a sonic boom. And I knew we were in trouble when I saw the catcher stand up and look to right field. The first baseman just turned around and just was frozen. The second baseman, same position, because he was playing more towards the first base side.
Because Reggie was going to pull
he'd pull everything. And so we were in trouble with the second baseman, I knew. But when the right fielder never made a move to barely turn around, he just turned his head. They didn't have fences at their high school. This was on the road. We're still looking for the ball. I think Cheltenham sent us a bill for not chasing the ball down. Like, hey, how come your right fielder didn't go after that ball? And what, you want to run 200 more yards? Go ahead. It had taken him 2 days to get back to right field. But, I mean, that's what it seemed like, obviously embellishing just a little bit there. But Reggie hit a home run against us that I had never experienced, had ever seen, even after I played in Connie Mack League and American Legion. That was Reggie, and we kind of knew he was destined for something. And so he goes to Arizona State on a football scholarship.
Oh, yeah, you did mention that.
And he ended up, football was not his thing. Frank Cush, I think was his name, was an ex-Marine, I believe. And I don't think Reggie really enjoyed the physical conditioning that the football coach put him through.
Have you seen Reggie? I don't think he needs to do any physical conditioning. Maybe today.
There is no question he was, his body was, he was so fit. And then they showed me, I forgot to tell you, they showed me his car in the parking lot. He had a Corvette. I found out it was his mother's. So Reggie did pretty well with his upbringing, and he was always very sure of himself. There's no question. Found that out up close when I guarded him in basketball. He didn't like me. I was a pest, and I don't think he appreciated that. It was kind of, I think one time he said something about, look at the score, you're killing us. What are you doing? Why are you all over me? Because that's what my coach told me to do. I said to him. So that's my Reggie Jackson experience. And then the rest is history. He could do a lot of things, but what he did in baseball was spectacular. I always rooted for him.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe we got a couple minutes left in this segment. I mean, when I'm talking about Mr. October 5 national or whatever 5 World Series that he won. What were your thoughts when you were watching Reggie? Other than hey, telling your roommates, hey, I played against that guy, or your Army guys, hey, I played against that kid.
Well, most people just thought I was telling a story, but no, it was real, and it was, and I'm glad I had a chance to do that, to compete against such a good athlete. And the game I remember better than any of the others in the pro league, in the major league, is the 3 home runs in the World Series.
Oh yeah,
against the Dodgers. And that was, I was at a person's house where we had dinner, and it was, I told him my Reggie Jackson stories. The guy didn't know, and so we bantered a little bit about his prowess. And, you know, he had some incidents with his coach, Billy Martin, that mild-mannered guy. For the younger people out there, they don't remember Billy Martin. By the
way, any of these names that you're hearing, go to your Wikipedia or Google search Billy Martin. I mean, the guy is
Yankee manager,
legendary. Some of the stuff he did.
He is. He would fight at the drop of a hat, which is kind of like Danny Murtaugh. Is my dad had beers several times at the local bar in Chester, Pennsylvania, because that's where Danny Murtaugh grew up and lived. And he hit the local pub, just like my dad did. And they got to know each other. I actually played against his 2 sons. His 2 sons went to the Catholic high school, him being an Irish Catholic member of the church. And he, and like you said about Wikipedia, Danny Murtaugh won the World Series in 1960 and 71.
Phillies?
I believe, with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oh, Pirates, okay.
Yeah, so Roberto Clemente, Willie Stargell, that crew, it was a pretty good team. In 1960, it was Mazeroski. Mazeroski hit the famous home run to beat the Yankees. Yogi Berra was playing in left field, and Yogi just turned around and said, "All right, that's the game." It was the last inning, and they won. But he going through a sport like baseball. What I really enjoyed about baseball, Tim, was situations. All the things that can happen. Man on first, 1 out. Man on first, 2 outs. Man on first, no outs. First and third, 1 out, 2 out. When do you bunt? When do you sacrifice? Or when are you going to sacrifice? When are you going to do whatever? And really playing baseball and working all the relay throws and things like that, backing up plays, really helped me. Again, something that helped me in teaching and coaching.
Yeah, I was going to say all of those. You not only have to look at it from the offensive standpoint of what could they do. You have to look at it from the defensive standpoint and analyze those. And then once the pitch goes, now it's all going to happen.
Yeah, we didn't have the analytics of, okay, this guy hit the ball 175 times in the infield. 100 of those times he hit it to the right of second base or to the left of second base or down the line or up the middle. And guys knowing what pitch is coming. Your pitcher, you know what pitch is coming because of certain signals that are given off. And it's amazing what they have now on the scouting report. It's volumes rather than a piece of scratch paper.
Well, it's crazy because they look at their wristband for
where to position
and
themselves.
Then they look at the inside of their hats for the lefties. I'm not even sure because I'm not a baseball guy, but I understand what all those analytics that they have right on their body all ready to go. Or they look at the Jumbotron and there you got it. It's crazy.
I coached baseball for 1 year in college, and great experience. A program that had never won more than 5 games, and we got down to the finals of the district championship to go to, I think it was, the finals were in Phoenix, I'm pretty sure, and at the College of Racine. And that was a lot of fun. That was something that we'll probably talk about later on, about the fact that it was a school that closed.
Yeah.
We'll save that one.
You probably said, "Hey, when I leave, the school's probably going to burn down or close," and you were right. So, hey, we're going to shift here into our second episode here a little bit, but I want to drop a little promo here for Buck and Honeys is one of our sponsors for today's episode. They sponsor our remote studios, and like I said, today we're live above University Avenue on the west side of Madison, and they facilitate the fun to ensure each guest has a memorable experience at a great value. Sounds like the great experience you just shared about that Reggie Jackson, and you're about to share another great episode or a great experience about going to a very, very special game, which we'll talk about in just a second. With Coach Bo Ryan is the 1960 NFL Championship game. So again, this is something that you can look up. It's somewhat legendary for a couple of reasons, which I'll go through here. But there's a little lead. I want to give you a little lead up. So the game was played on Monday, December 26th, and then an NFL championship game would be the Super Bowl to Super Bowl today. So it was the upstart 8-4 Green Bay Packers against the 10-2 Philadelphia Eagles. And that game was played at Franklin Field, which I'm sure you'll be able to add to that, Coach. The Packers, 8-4 in the Western Conference, were led by some new guy named Vince Lombardi. Some of the notable players during that time were Willie Davis, Forrest Gregg, Paul Hornung, Henry Jordan, Jerry Kramer, Ray Nitschke, Jim Ringo, Jim Taylor, Willie Wood, and Bart Starr. The lone playoff loss. This happened to be the lone playoff loss for Coach Lombardi. The Packers would go on to win 5 NFL championships, including the first 2 Super Bowls. Ironically, quarterback Bart Starr, compared to these days, had some less than gaudy statistics that year, throwing for 4 touchdowns and 8 interceptions that year. So tells me that Coach Lombardi liked to keep the ball on the ground. The Eagles were 10-2 in the Eastern Conference, led by head coach Buck Shaw. Some of the notable players during that time were Chuck Bednarik. I would not want to meet Chuck
Concrete
Bednarik.
Chuck.
I would not want to meet him daylight, sunlight, dark alley, but I'm sure was a hell of a man. Norm Van Brocklin, Tommy McDonald, and Sonny Jurgensen. That was the 3rd NFL title for Philly, but the last until their 2018 Super Bowl win over the New England Patriots. Their head coach, with a little Packer tie-in there, was none other than former backup quarterback Doug Peterson was, I believe, the head coach for that team. Mm-hmm. Yep. In 1960, the Eagles had the best record. And ironically, at the end of the season, with all of these quarterbacks playing into their late 30s and early 40s, Norm Van Brocklin would be done. He was the quarterback of the team that year, leader at 34, and shortly after the championship game, he would leave and go to the expansion Minnesota Vikings to become their head coach, and you can probably touch on that. Some intrigue for the game. Tickets were going for an outrageous, at that time, $8 to $10, which if you convert that 1960 money into 2024 money, that's $107. So there were no lights at Franklin Field, so the game was moved to a day game. The NFL was concerned about overtime due to the 2 years prior to that, the 1958 title game that went into sudden death, which was called the greatest game ever played. But there were over 67,000 people in attendance that day, including one excited 13-year-old boy. And that leads us into Coach Ryan. Coach Ryan was that 13-year-old boy, and I think you were excited. So one of my favorite stories of all time. So go ahead and let her rip, Coach.
Well, it all started after we were all a little fuzzy a day after Christmas. With all the gifts, and of course you stay up late, and we had a little train that we ran. So it was the typical day after Christmas.
I'm a big train guy, by the way.
Are you really? Well, I know. We'll have to start calling you that. So my dad comes and he says, "Hey, what do you got today?" I said, "Well, nothing. I don't have any practice or anything. So what's up?" He says, "Come on, jump in the car. We're heading up to the Eagles game." I said, "Dad, you got tickets?" He said, "Nah, I don't have any tickets. We'll figure something out." And so I jump in the car and I'm like, well, I don't know what our chances are, but my dad's been known to do some really unusual things. So we get up there, and he starts talking to the scalpers. Mm-hmm. The scalpers are always around, and they were talking like $20 or something. And there's no way. We did not have that kind of money. $40 was groceries for a month. So if he had to get me a ticket and a ticket for him. So he worked a plan. We walked around Franklin Field's exterior, and it's right next to the Palestra. That's why I kind of know Franklin Field pretty well. Palestra is where all the Big Five schools, Temple, LaSalle, Penn, St. Joe's, Villanova, LaSalle. Yeah, okay. I think I got all of them.
That'll be a quiz question later for the followers.
But and that's on the University of Pennsylvania campus. The Penn relays are always run there, and that's a big track event. And so they had a beautiful track around the field, which will come into play later on in the story. So he walks around and he tells me he's checking all the ticket takers, and he wants to find the oldest and the one with the thickest glasses. That was that's the prey.
That's on the scouting report.
Yeah. So he spots a guy. He's, all right, I got him. So he sees some buddies. My dad, because of sports and coaching and all that, he knew everybody. He asked this guy, when you go inside, can you float your 2 ticket stubs over the wall, the brick wall that's there? And there's no telling with the wind where the stubs are going to go. But the guy did it, and we scrambled, and we got the 2 ticket stubs. Are you still with me?
I'm still with you. Ticket stubs,
so
cyclone type winds.
So, and he's got a plan here. And so we get that ticket taker, and we stand there and watch people come. A bus delivers about 30 to 35, 40 guys that obviously came from a bar. And they jumped in the bus after getting their refreshments. And so my dad went up to the guy in the front, and he says, "Hey, I want you to do me a favor. When my son and I get up to the ticket taker, when you see me drop my stub, when I drop this stub, can you get these guys to yell, come on, hurry up. We don't have all day. The game's going to start. And he talked this guy into it. So we get up there, and he puts his hand in my back and says, okay, go ahead. If I don't make it in, you stay, and I'll meet you right out here after the game. So he pushes me in the back. I slide in. He drops the 2 stubs as he goes to give them to the ticket taker. He's fumbling around down on the ground. And these guys start yelling so loud that my dad picked up the stub, and he says, "What do you? No, you tore. You already got my half, because there was no perforated. It was just
No scanners.
No scan. Of course not. Not in 1960." And so the guy said, "Oh, okay." So my dad. So here we are. We are in. There was a coach named Jack McKinney. They didn't pay coaches very much back then, so they had jobs. They had part-time jobs. So he worked for the stadium, and especially on days with big football games like that, that he was kind of a troubleshooter. So we ran into him because I grew up across the street from him, and he was the coach at St. Joe's. He was the coach of the Lakers, Jack McKinney. They did a story on him.
Yeah, I was just gonna say when you told that story, and I remember that piecing it together, they did the Netflix or
Yeah, he was on a
series.
bike, and the wheel came off, and he hit his head, and he was never the same.
Yeah,
He was never the same. But anyhow, he was there, and he says, "Hey, Butch," to my dad, he says, I know a guy that's not coming, because it had snowed, and there was snow brushed underneath the seats. And he says, I got 2 on the 40. You want them? I'll take you down there to him. So Jack McKinney takes us down to great seats, and we had a blast, because obviously we were Eagles fans growing up in that area. And the game came down to a play at the end where Jim Taylor ran the ball to about the 7-yard line, 5 to 7-yard line, somewhere in there, close. And Chuck McNarick wouldn't get off of Jim Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
So they're trying to, there's probably some stories out there people can pick this up on. And they couldn't, and they didn't get a playoff in time, and the Eagles won. And needless to say, Philly fans have a reputation, and it's earned, raucous. They drank a lot, and the drink of choice back then was Seagram 7 pint bottles, glass. So we all start to go down. We're going to go on the field. We're going to, hey, this is a championship here.
Holler a little bit.
So we go to get down, and Frank Rizzo was the chief of police. He later became the mayor of Philadelphia. But Frank Rizzo came out and put all the police around, because they didn't want to ruin the track. They didn't want to ruin the field with people stomping. And so the police were not going to allow us to get the goalposts. Well, guys would take Seagram 7, the bottles, break them, put the pieces of glass in ice balls, snowballs. Remember I said there was snow underneath the seats? And they started firing them. It was not a pretty scene, not something that people from Philadelphia would be very proud of. But finally, Frank Rizzo comes riding in. I'll never forget it. And he had a bullhorn, and he said, pull back, pull back, pull back. So all the police went to the one corner of the field, and here we come. We over that little wall that they have there, from all parts of the field, and we got a piece of the goalpost.
It's caddy day at the pool. Everybody just went in.
It was, my dad made sure we got a good piece of the goalpost, and something that obviously we cherish as fans, just like Green Bay Packers have their stories to tell, and all the teams. So that was basically it was my birthday present, because being born on December 20th, I never got birthday gifts. My parents would always say, you're going to get it Christmas.
I've heard people tell me they get robbed when they're born around
Yeah,
Christmas.
yeah. So yeah, I don't ever remember having a birthday party. So anyhow, that was my birthday present. I still have the stub and a little piece of the gold post, and it's in a good spot. It's safe.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Coach, those are two of my favorite stories that I heard over the course of time. And the reason I'm having Coach Ryan on is having you on is that I think these stories need to be told, and both you and I are going to have a digital footprint somewhere on planet Earth for the rest of our lives. And these stories are so cool because of the players, the teams, and what we know now and what we didn't know back then, of who these people would later become, and who in fact you became. You were just a regular guy from Chester, PA. And if somebody said, hey, you were going to win, you're just going to be a college coach, you'd have been good with that. But all of the things that you did, we did together, whatever, it's just really kind of ties in with.
Well, there's a lesson to be learned. And I'll tell you what the lesson was. I said to my dad on the drive home, well, Dad, wasn't that illegal? Didn't we break the law by sneaking into the game? He said, son, there was absolutely no one hurt. Those two seats were going to be, and we'd have stood. He goes, and nobody got hurt. He didn't take any money from anybody. It's not like he took somebody's seats. Mm-hmm. But he said, now, I really don't want you doing things like this as you get older if it involves anything that hurts someone else. So he justified to me, and when we got home and had to explain to my mom how the heck we got into it, because she would have said, no way. If she'd have driven up to the game with him, there's no way she would have allowed that to happen. But my dad said, there was nobody hurt, and he looked me in the eye and said, did you have a good experience? Did you enjoy it? I said, Dad, I'll remember this for the rest of my life for sure.
And it's going to live on for a lot longer than that, Coach. So I think that really has some real meaning to the survive and thrive of our topic of the podcast. And really my call to action for the people that are listening today is that if you're feeling stress of the world or pressures of life, jump into a good book, watch a movie, call a friend, and in this case today, for 30 to 40 minutes, we've had Coach tell us these two stories about Reggie Jackson and the 1960 NFL championship. And for 30 to 40 minutes, I've been taken to another time and another place. And all my worries that I may have had coming into this today, our first episode, were kind of washed away, and it's just two regular guys talking. So those were definitely two of my favorite stories. So, and they need to be told and have some real meaning. So our next episode is going to air in another couple days, and we have definitely some more stories. Coach Ryan is going to be here for a couple of weeks, and we're going to hear some other fascinating stories of fascinating people. And the reason some of these stories have a lot of meaning to me is who was in them, but then you always had that way of being able to bring them back and teach us something about life. Your experience has helped us grow into the men that we were, and you've had that impact on the coaches, on the players and coaches that you worked with. So,
well, thanks, Tim, and I learned an awful lot from every one of you guys, from every player I've ever coached, every assistant coach I've ever had, every administrator. There's always knowledge to be gained, and if you stick your head in the mud, it's not going to happen. So you got to be open-minded and share. So by sharing these stories, maybe experiences that a person like you will have or anybody else, and you'll be able to say, hey, somebody might be interested in hearing my story. Maybe. Who knows?
I wonder how many people are going to be pushing their kid into that Super Bowl or that championship game and trying this. Don't try any of this at home.
No,
people.
that's
Don't try any of this at home. But we will be coming to you from the Buck and Huddy studios in a couple of days with another episode. So that's it. And as I like to say when I say see ya, it's never goodbye. It's see ya, or in my case, peace.